Hi there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Today's video is just a really, as per usual, kind of about quick and easy card making. So when I don't have a whole lot of time, then I kind of turn to techniques like this to create something that is really going to stand out and be bold, yet this is quick and simple, and I'm pretty sure you'll have something in your stash that you can do exactly the same with. So you can do this on any different size card, but I have picked up this stamp set here. This is from Vicki Boutin and this is the Inspiring stamp set. It has this little leaf down here, this little piece of foliage. Another couple of options that I saw when I was going through my stash, this is the Leaf Clusters stamp set, this little one here, or even if you needed to mask off and just use the top of one section, you could definitely cut your stamps, that would work too, but because it was kind of one whole leaf, you might just want to mask it. But I have this little stamp here and then just a black fine liner pen, and all I'm going to do is just draw a very kind of wildly not straight line here. It kind of creates a frame, a border, just something that I can follow and kind of move my way around. This also creates a nice little base. It creates a little bit more texture behind the stamping. And for stamping today, I'm going to be using my VersaFine Clear inks. This is the blue Belle color. Now I'm using the VersaFine Clear. These are pigment inks and these stamp beautifully. This is one of the main reasons that I choose to go with this collection. I have these in my little small craft space because they stamp beautifully, and these are the main ink I kind of turn to when I want stamping to turn out really, really nice. I don't want to have to guess if it's going to be blotchy or if solid stamps are actually going to turn out solid. So this is why I love the VersaFine Clear inks. Then I'm going to come back in with the Warm Breeze, and all I've done with the first go around is kind of space them. They are not straight, they are just about touching each other, kind of nose to tail with each other, going around that border that we created. And then I chose a slightly kind of almost lighter color, the Warm Breeze color, and I'm going to go around exactly the same way, kind of going on top, kind of filling in some of the gaps. And this is going to create a gorgeous frame in, I think, maybe under a minute to create this frame for my card making today. Now I'm going to do a couple of different versions because pretty much any colors you have are going to work. I stuck within almost the same color families when I was kind of layering mine up. I usually went with a dark and a light of a color, but you could also try oranges and yellows and reds, which I'm going to try next, or anything. You could go just wild and go purples and blues or greens and blues, anything that's going to go together really nicely, and see how you go. And as I said, as for what you can stamp with, there are so many different options, even if you have a die and you want to create your own stamp. So if you had a die that was kind of the perfect little foliage die, you could die cut it out of some fun foam, just like kids fun foam, attach it to acrylic block, and that is going to work perfectly to become a stamp for this as well. So where there's a will, there's a way, and there is always another option. For this one, I'm going to be using the Cheerful and Summertime inks, so yellows and oranges, and you can kind of go wild here. I don't want my wreaths to be nice and perfect. These are just frames. They're kind of going around and framing up whatever I would like to put on the inside. Now, as for finishing off the cards, again, the world is your oyster. I'm going to show you a couple of kind of really different options, different from each other, but I'm sure you have lots of things in your stash that would go fantastic in the middle of these. So I have these little butterfly stamps here, and these are just single butterflies from the Woodware stamps, and these have a really low price point because they are just one little stamp on a sheet, and there are several different kinds of these butterflies. I'm going to stamp this right in the center there and pop some clear embossing powder over top. Because I stamped in pigment ink for my little frame, that is also going to catch the embossing powder, and that suits me just fine. Then I have got a little piece of scrap vellum here, and I'm going to stamp that out in the same black ink, add the same clear embossing powder over top, and then I'm going to heat set that as well. Make sure that you are using a vellum that can handle being heat set and embossed on it. I use the Lawn Fawn vellum, that is the best one. Then I'm using 3 different shades of blue, in this case Blueprint Sketch, Salty Ocean and Tumbled Glass. And even though this is not watercolor paper, I must admit it accepts water and watercoloring really, really well. I can still move it around once I pop it down, so This paper is actually from a local shop, but I used to use the Recollections brand 110-pound paper, and I loved that. Then they stopped selling it at our local spotlights, and they moved to the Frenchville paper, and this is the, I think it's also 110-pound, and I moved to that, and this is really lovely paper. In fact, I cannot tell a difference from the Recollections one, so I swear they are the same paper. So this is what I use for my card bases and card fronts, just everything now. Now I'm using the TriBlend markers to colour on the back of my vellum piece here. So the embossing is on the front, I turned it over, and now I'm using my alcohol markers, my TriBlend marker, which has all three colours of the blues that I need. This is the True Blue Blend. Just because I'm keeping these cards really simple today, and this extra little layer of vellum is going to work really well. Now what I like to do is keep the body perfectly flat, and then I kind of bend the wings up. So all I'm doing is keeping that little body flat and then turning it just to the side a little bit and bending the other wing up. That gives me a nice space that I can add some really strong glue. This is the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish that I pop inside these little glue bottles. I know I've mentioned it before, but I get asked a lot. I have a video on YouTube called How to Fill a Glue Bottle, and it shows you exactly how I get the glue inside those little bottles, mess-free and stress-free. So if you would like to, check that out. Then I have this alphabet stencil here that I really am enjoying using. Now I'm going to use it with pigment inks today and some little finger daubers. I want to have the word thank because this is a thank you card, and just another option if you want to go for kind of a low cost way to add letters. Sometimes stamps and dies can be really expensive, particularly alphabet dies can be really expensive. So this is just another way that I can kind of get around that and get using alphabet and create my own words and names and things, but not having to fork out for the expense of those dies. And then I'm going to do pretty much an ombre-ish look using the same two colors that I did around the outside. So I wanted a T to the left, and then I wanted a K to the right. But I forgot that I was not going to write the word thanks. I just wanted thank. So I had done the S here and was like, okay. So fear not, I'm not going to give up. I did use my little sand eraser, and that got rid of some of the ink. And then I decided to just go ahead and try and do the K over top, and I would kind of fix it in a bit and just see how it looked. I could kind of include a little bit of that ink in part of the K, so it didn't look quite as bad. And actually in the end you can't even notice, so I'm glad that I carried on and didn't get frustrated. Sometimes it just means kind of moving past it and then seeing what we can do after that. I wanted to do the first and the last letter kind of first, because that way I could get the spacing the best that I kind of could. I didn't want it all kind of be shoved over to the left or shoved over to the right, so it's not perfect, but I did my best, and I like it because these letters aren't perfect, the kind of font of them, so it wasn't too bad. Now this is a galaxy marker. This is just essentially white ink in here, and so I did a little bit of dotting around, and that way it kind of hid a little bit of that extra ink that was there. This is the scrapbook.com thank you die set. I love that big word you up there. It's one of my favorites, my go-tos. I die cut this out 4 times, and then I needed to include a little bit different color or a little bit of sparkle. So I'm using my sticky embossing ink, and I'm going to pop some silver embossing powder on top of one of those words you, one of those cutouts. Then once I am heat setting this, I have just got the pile there of powder, which is dangerous to have it sitting that close whilst I have the heat gun on. But I am going to melt that powder and then dip it in 3 or 4 times so I can build up a really nice thick layer on the top of that top U. So then I take the other 3 that I die cut out, and I'm going to layer these on top to create a really nice thick chipboard looking little sentiment here. And then this is going to be popped on using the same matte medium and just go just underneath. Now just because I had included some silver there, I want to add a little bit more, so I'm just using some Nouveau drops, and I'm going to pop these in and around the frame around the outside. But these were some really quick, easy cards, and in fact this whole session of card making took me very little time, surprisingly little time, to create these really quick and easy frames. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video today. I hope that you have a look through your stash and look for those little pieces of foliage, those smaller stamps that we can make really good use of. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and the comments that you leave for me. I love reading them, and I reply to as many as I can. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, bye.